Hello my friends and welcome, my name is Dennis and this is the latest update from Ukraine. Let's start today's update from the Ukrainian operation in the Kursk region of Russia. As you may see, Ukraine gained some of the more territories. We're speaking about this western part, and also Ukraine advanced on the east even more, close to Giri. Well, actually around 3 days ago, Ukrainian vehicles were spotted in the Giri village itself, but Russians managed to ambush those, so Ukraine lost 3 of the vehicles. Also maybe the infantry soldiers, but we don't have the precise data about that. This Ukrainian attack vector is still kind of narrow and just partially was able to break through the Russian defense. I would say that the situation on the west is more profitable for Ukrainian army. Almost every day Ukraine takes village by village from the Russian side. And also it's kind of interesting situation in Corniva for the Russian army, because there is the risk of the encirclement of the Russian army in that place. So this is the Corniva City. The fight for it is ongoing for a few days. And Ukraine actually managed to reach the river and the bridge across it. This is a very important hotspot from the tactical perspective. By using it, Ukraine might cross the river and go directly to the city, but also Russia is able to defend it for now, because it's kind of the narrow space for the defense. For this reason, Ukraine is searching for the alternate variants of how to cross the river and maybe to strike Russians from 2 more directions. Ukraine recently took Olgivka under control, and now Ukraine has 1 more attack vector that helps to disperse the Russian defense forces in the city. Also, we may see that recently Ukraine took all of this territory under control, quite a successful attack from the Ukrainian side, and now there is 1 more attack vector, so potentially Ukraine might cross this river over here and advance to Corniva from 1 more side. Here is Corniva on the Google Maps, and judging from this image, Ukraine already took the part of the city under control, this part, down to this river, so Ukraine probably might cross it in this place. By the way, there is 1 more bridge nearby. So it looks something like that. Corniva is still under the Russian control, but Russians actually might be blocked in that city. If Ukraine advances from 3 of the directions how it is written on the map, Russians basically could be jammed between Ukrainian army and this much wider river, and also there is the higher terrain more to the west. In this case, the only way for the Russian army to avoid this encirclement is to use this road for evacuation, or you may call it retreatment. So potentially if Ukraine advances from Olgivka and cuts that road for the Russian evacuation, Russians will be encircled. So this attack vector is very important for Ukrainian army. What Ukrainian army needs to do is just to cross the small river in Olgivka, that's it. There are no more natural obstacles on the way in this place, the terrain is flat, good for the fast attack movements. Some of the media analytics, for example from the Bild source, say that there is definitely the risk for the Russian army to be encircled in Corniva City, because Ukraine broke to that Russian settlement from many of the directions. My friends, if you want to support the job that I do daily on YouTube, you may also follow me on Patreon. The link for my Patreon page is available in the video description just below. Thank you for supporting my motivation. Then YouTube cancels monetization. About the southeastern part, well, here we have the clarification that Ukraine finally has 2 of the attack vectors. Those are going directly to Kamyshne and Belitsa villages. Well, Belitsa I would say is a small town, but it's the foreseen intention of the Ukrainian army. Still, Ukraine needs to go to Ulanok village at first. And Borky is partially claimed under Ukrainian control. The southeast part looks like that. This is the territorial gain of Ukrainian army for the last 24 hours. Ukraine has established the control over Внезапne, Viktorovka and Gordievka. About the Ukrainian forces really located in the settlement, I have just from Gordievka, so I'll put question mark for those 2 villages. I need to have more data from the place, but definitely Ukraine moved quite a lot for the last 24 hours. But as you see in this area, the Russian defense lines are still under their control. But Ukraine might strike those from the north and from the south. What about the main city of Suja? Well, it was taken by Ukraine. It is understandable. However, Russia still officially cannot confirm their loss, and Ukraine moves more to the east, taking more and more territories. The fight is ongoing in all of the neighboring villages. I think that it was around 5 days ago that the general commander of the Russian army, Gerasimov, said that Russia was able to stop the Ukrainian advancement in Kursk Oblast, but it's not true. And we have many of the video confirmations from the ground, lots of the drone images. That stuff, by the way, is available on my Telegram channel, so my friends, I highly recommend you to check out the video description below, to join join my Telegram. There I publish more information about the case. The Italian journalists from the TG1 channel went to Suja. They filmed the road and some of the local citizens who stayed there. As you see, they are alive, and Ukraine doesn't do anything as Russia did in occupied territories, for example, as in Bucha, Kiev Oblast. And most of the buildings are definitely intact. And according to the latest information, Ukraine took Mikhailovka village under control. It's the village after Suja, so 100% it's been confirmed by the drone images. So all of the talks from the Russian side that Suja is still under Russian control, as I heard today from the Akhmat battalion commander, those are just fake or incorrect information. And you know what? Russia, in their desperate attempts to stop Ukrainian army from advancement, start to use the helicopters again. I mean attack helicopters like K-52. And they published some of the video how they destroy and ambush Ukrainian convoy. The problem for Russia that it's not the Ukrainian convoy, it's the Russian one. Yes, the Russian helis ambushed at least one of the KAMAZ vehicles, and probably the infantry just run away from the place. How do we know that those are exactly the Russian KAMAZ vehicles? Well, Ukraine doesn't have those KAMAZ vehicles modifications in the army, only trophied ones. Plus, you may see the sign on the back, it's the diamond which is crossed, it's the symbol of the Russian group on the northern side. They used the same marking on their military vehicles, then they went to the northern part of the Kharkiv Oblast, so again there is the friendly fire from the Russian side. Ukraine takes the record number of the prisoners of war who voluntarily decided to surrender. Mostly those are still the Russian conscripts, and you know they are coming to the front line to fight. Before, the Russian officials told that conscripts will be used just to protect the border, but now they send those right into the hotspots. They don't have any sort of the military experience, and what they do is they give up to Ukrainian army, while also the soldiers from the Russian regular army give up to Ukraine too. I'm not telling that those particular soldiers are the conscripts, but on the front you may see that those are relatively young, but maybe those are the soldiers of the Russian regular army, the contract army. Sometimes Ukrainian soldiers have to carry the Russian prisoners of war for a very long distance on their bare feet. Here the Ukrainian Armed Forces serviceman removed all of the unnecessary gear, even his pants, and he continued to carry the wounded Russian soldier. Guys, and let's be honest, do you think Russians would do the same? We know what they usually do with the wounded Ukrainian army personnel. They basically kill them. Well, actually, it's even strange that the Russian soldiers surrender that fast, because it is the second line of the Surovikin defense in the region, in the Kursk Oblast. So Russians just gave up those positions to Ukrainian army with no any fight. Well, obviously, it's the most smart thing that Russians might do. Zelensky, together with the Ukrainian Army Command, decided to establish the military administration in the controlled territory of the Kursk Oblast. It means that the Ukrainian army there for a very long time. Also, Ukraine is establishing two of the evacuation routes from the region, one towards Sumy Oblast of Ukraine and the other one towards the Russian territory, allowing locals to leave the place, because both of the sides they use artillery, but Russia also might use the guided aviation bombs which they drop right on their own settlements. Russia finally announced the evacuation of the part of the Belgorod Oblast, Kursk Oblast and Bryansk Oblast. And there are some rumors that Ukraine might strike again with major attack towards the Belgorod Oblast. What Russia does right now is they create a new defense line on the northern side from the battle zone. Here's the detailed image of the deep anti-tank trench that was leaked to the internet. This area is located not far away from the Lvov city, which is 30 kilometers away from the current front lines. As you see, Russia tries to use the emergency measures to stop Ukrainian offensive. Sometimes Russians just abandon their vehicles. This is the T-80, one more tank that was captured by Ukraine. And this is the Russian T-90 tank that also was captured, the best tank, as Putin says. Our guys immediately put their own symbols on the tank for it not to get under the friendly fire. The Indian embassy in Moscow asked their citizens to evacuate, or as they say, relocate, outside the regions of Bryansk, Belgorod and Kursk. They say that it's because of the recent security incidents. We may call it a big security incident from the Ukrainian side directly towards the Russian territory. By the way, Putin uses the word situation to describe those events. Yeah, kind of interesting situation, especially for Putin himself. Right, guys, we spoke a little about the good news, but now it's time for the bad news. Every operation has its own losses. The Kursk operation is not the exclusion. Ukraine loses its men, its armored vehicles, it's the war. The Western-made vehicles are not magical. Yes, they are much better built compared to the Russian-made, but still they suffer against the drone strikes, artillery strikes, and Russia uses lots of the Iskander missiles. So unfortunately here the Ukrainian convoy was definitely ambushed. And there were also losses on even the Max Pro MRAP vehicle armor wasn't enough to defend our guys. I guess this is Max Pro and this is the Ukrainian Cossack vehicle. Here I will not show you all of the images that were leaked to the internet and even on Telegram. It's too much. Also, Ukraine lost one of the fighter jet MiG-29 in Kursk and Ukrainian pilot unfortunately died. His name was Alexander and he published many videos in internet on his page before. Unfortunately, 2 days ago his aircraft was hit by the Russian air defense missile. Plus, unfortunately today or yesterday Russia hit the Ukrainian HIMARS, definitely. For this strike they used their Iskander ballistic missile, which was coordinated with the help of the surveillance drone. The HIMARS was hit in the Sumy region, which is bordering Kursk region. It is 100% that it was definitely a working HIMARS because it was launching some of the GMLRS missiles towards Kursk. After it left the launching spot, but not that far away, and later on was targeted by the Russian Iskander ballistic missile. Judging on the video, I must say that it's legit and Ukraine definitely lost a single HIMARS unit. It is the second recorded loss of the rocket artillery system of that type in Ukrainian army. The biggest problem for the Ukrainian army are the Russian surveillance drones. Lots of them are flying over the Ukrainian-controlled territory and they're able to spot Ukrainian HIMARS or other Ukrainian systems, like for example air defense systems. And later on Russia strikes everything of that with their Iskander ballistic missiles with quite a long range of 550 kilometers. The previous HIMARS system was eliminated in the same way. Ukraine tries to cope with the surveillance drones, but sometimes it's not possible, because those drones are very hard to identify. Also, Ukraine started to use the British-made Challenger 2 tanks on the territory of the Kursk Oblast. I think that the Ukrainian army has at least 8 of those tanks. And Russians published this video probably with the Ukrainian Challenger 2 tank. They say that it was hit and destroyed by the Lancet drone strike, and later on they show it in the video, but for me it's really hard to define whether this is really a Challenger tank because of the quality of the video and the distance to the tank. Well, maybe it is the Challenger 2. Could be. I'll try to increase the exposure, so here we see more details of the tank. And definitely this box on the front and also this hatch looks like on Challenger 2 tank. This is the image taken from internet, so the same box and the same hatch at the same side. That's why I tend to believe that definitely it was the Challenger 2 tank. Unfortunately for Ukraine and for us, because we all support Ukrainian army, except Russian troll bots in the comments, right? Breaking news while I'm filming this video, it seems like the Russian strategic bomber Tupolev 22M3 crash-landed or something happened to it mid-air in Irkutsk region of the Russian Federation. Irkutsk is definitely far, far away from Ukraine, as I remember from my geography lesson, so let's check it out on the map. So just for you to understand, this is Ukraine, and Irkutsk is over here. Yes, Russia is big, damn big. Here's the route, it's thousands of kilometers away. So obviously it wasn't the Patriot system, but probably some of the malfunction of the old Russian airplane. And this is the image right from the field, from the crash site. And this is how the airplane looks like. Russia uses those to strike Ukrainian infrastructure. It isn't the first time that Russia loses those airplanes. More about the Russian aviation, we have one more confirmation that Russia definitely lost the fighter jet in the Kursk region. They paid a tribute in the social media to Kharchevsky Alexander Nikolaevich, who was the Major General of the Russian Air Force. Yes, the Major General was shot down over Kursk. Crazy. Great news, the Ukrainian allies announced the support of the Ukrainian army with more military equipment and more munition. This time Germany will send the air defense systems to Ukraine, also Gepard air defense tanks, 30 of the Leopard 1A5 tanks, 12 of the Panzerhaubitze 2000 artillery systems, that's a lot, 4 of Susanna 2 artillery systems, crazy amount of MRAPs 400, many of the supply trucks, drones and medical equipment. All of that will be supplied to Ukraine this year. year, till the end of this year. It's not the immediate package, no. In occasional cases, the announced packages are smaller than Ukraine actually gets. It's good. The White House administration also announced the new military package for Ukraine, which is coming in the recent days. Awesome. Alright guys, so we have the latest satellite images of the Rostov-on-Don submarine, and as you may see, it is intact. So was Ukraine actually wrong saying that it sank down the submarine? Well, the answer is not, because this submarine is missing the tail part. It is a decoy, which according to the data we may calculate has the length of 56.5 meters. But the original submarine is 74 meters long. So where is the real Rostov-on-Don submarine? It is over there. We can see the tail of it. If you look at the zoomed-in image, you may see the tail of the submarine. It is lying on the floor, right at the bottom of this channel, and what Russia presents out here is, as I say to you, a decoy. Russians do it just to distract the attention of the Ukrainian intelligence, saying that everything is fine with submarine, it wasn't targeted, here you go. But the reality is, as you see, a little different. The self-proclaimed president of Belarus is calling for the possible negotiations between Ukraine and Russia, but at the current stage, those negotiations are not real, and just 4 days ago, Putin himself said that there is no sense in negotiating with Ukraine. Also, Lukashenko said that they're gonna use nukes if Ukraine tries to attack their territory. It means that we already know the possible scenario for the future escalation from Belarus and Russia. They might basically fake the attack on the territory of Belarus, and Lukashenko might play the role of the crazy dictator with the nuclear weaponry, which I think he really is. An interesting news from Politica: Biden thinks to send some of the long-range cruise missiles to Ukraine. Awesome. Those could be launched from the fighter plane, so it's similar to the Storm Shadow. Well, hopefully those missiles will come with the permission to use them on the Russian territory, for example, hitting the Russian military bases. But what I know from the practice reviewing this war for a very long time, that if they say that they think, it means that the decision has already been taken. It means that Ukraine obtains those missiles 100%. Alright, and now let's check out the latest updates from the Ukrainian front lines. As you see, Russia moved quite a lot in New York town. They also occupied the nearby lake with Dachi on the western side from New York. As you see, the vast part of the settlement is under the Russian control. Ukraine wasn't able to stop the Russian offensive. And we also have the update from the deep state military map source, so yesterday and today. 100% same. It means that Ukraine will move the forces out from this place just to avoid them being encircled by the Russian army, and soon we're gonna see the battle for the Kursk city. Actually, it's already ongoing. There is the gray area in the city. Plus, Russia moved in their major assault vector in Pokrovsk direction, so let's go to this place. It was yesterday and it is today. Russians occupied Orlivka and Zhelane village. Today, the distance from the Pokrovsk city to the battle area is 12.2 kilometers. It's less than 8 miles. The situation is very serious in Pokrovsk direction, and as you may see, Russia is not willing to move their forces out from the eastern front lines to protect the Kursk Oblast, their actual Russian territory. Alright my friends, and now please don't forget to press your huge like to this video. By doing so you help me a lot, and as usual I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.